Hi everyone, this is Isabel, the founder of I Like Networking. On today's episode, things will be a bit different. Isabella, one of our mentors and a friend of mine, decided that it wasn't enough for me to interview people. I had to be put on the spotlight as well, so I had to be interviewed. So this is what's gonna happen. Isabella is going to interview me, so wish me luck.
You're probably wondering why I'm back here. The truth is I had so much fun and then I wanted to be back. So I had to find an excuse and I found the perfect excuse. That is, we get to know Isabel, the brains and muscles behind I Like Networking.
Yes, lots of muscles.
Lots of muscles. Maybe some tears, a little bit of blood,
Yes.
all involved. Belle is so amazing. And I mean, I know her very well, but I thought, she's always introducing us, the mentors and the mentees, but there's very little about herself. And I don't think that's very much fair. So without further ado, here it goes. Belle, today we're gonna get to know you. Okay, so we started when you interviewed me. You asked me what was my worst job ever. Well, I'm not gonna ask you back, but I'm gonna ask you what was your worst interview ever?
Oh, you're gonna love that. My worst interview was actually for a fashion job.
Oh no.
It was like I was starting my producing career and I didn't know exactly which area I like to go, so I was doing anything people invited me to. In Sao Paulo, there's Sao Paulo Fashion Week, and there used to be like this alternative fashion week, which I now forget what it's called. I think it's Casa dos Criadores.
It's mostly for students or brands that are starting, like British Fashion Council. They do a lot of kind of showcases during Fashion Week to promote kind of new talent. So in São Paulo, we have the same, and it's called Casa dos Criadores, which translates to the House of Creatives.
Yes, so I got a friend told me that they needed a producer for one of the fashion shows, and it was the weirdest interview I ever had. So at first they met me at this like really busy cafe, so we couldn't really hear each other, and he was like talking to lots of people at the same time. They would come in and say hi, and he'd be like, "Oh, hi darling, how are you?" And people would go and go back to the interview, and I was like, "Okay, this is odd." And then at some point, after half an hour of questioning, they asked me, "Okay, but so what's your sign?" They were like, "Yeah, what's your sign?" I said, "I'm a Taurus." And then they said, "Oh, and what is your, I don't know, your sun sign or a moon sign?" And I was like, "Well, I have no idea." And he was like, "Oh, typical Taurus. But a Taurus is okay. If you were a Leo, I don't think we could work together." And I was like, "You should probably have asked me that at the beginning of this interview anyway, because kind of a waste of time." And it was so weird. He started asking me all sorts about astrology, and I was like, "Not sure this is the best way to hire someone." But yeah, it was a disaster.
Sounds brilliant. And somehow I kind of see that happening in the fashion industry somehow. What can you say? Is there a sign that we can lie about? Is there a sign that everybody would like to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Apparently it was very typical of me, of a Taurus, to not know my sun, moon, water, whatever it was that they asked. I was like, why are you really not that into astrology? And I think I offended him. I did get the job, by the way, and it was also my worst job ever. It was a disaster altogether. I should have known from the interview.
Yes. Well, sometimes the signs are there. If the interview goes in a particular way, the job will probably follow.
So there you go. I was too young to know that.
So one day you can tell about it in a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, so that was a very strange beginning. Before we go into the whole I Like Networking, I hope we can talk a little bit more about the project itself. Can you tell me how you started? How you ended up in London, sitting in your living room thinking, I'm going to start a networking project? How it all got you where you are now?
It's kind of a long story, so I'll try to keep it brief. I hope this comforts anyone who is in the same position. I got into university when I was 17. I was 100% lost. I wanted to study Russian literature in Brazil, and my parents were like, "Well, we don't think that's an appropriate thing to study. I don't think if you can study even that here." So, and I was like, "Okay, so I'll just do something maybe in another area. So I was in between psychology, journalism, fashion, and international relations because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a fashion designer or a politician. So I was a bit confused. Let's put it that way. But I got into this international relations university, and I was like, okay, so maybe I'm gonna be the president, because I was very low ambitions at the time. And someone got me an internship right off the bat with the government in Sao Paulo. It was the worst experience of my life. I think everybody knows that the corruption levels in the Brazilian government are really bad, but it was just so depressing to sit there and see what was happening in front of my eyes, and literally no one even cares enough to cover it up. And I was like, okay, this is really sad. And then I started learning about politics in school, and I was like, okay, this is actually really boring. Because why did I think being the president would be fun? I mean, also, I wasn't going to it the right. But I was, for a while, I was very invested in it. I went to all these talks and panels, and I read 100 different magazines and really into it. But I don't have the stomach for it. I very much applaud people, like young people who want to change the political system from the inside, but I quickly realized that wasn't me. So then I was back to stage one of oh my God, what am I going to do with my life?
Did you try to go back to Russian literature by that point?
No, then I started I got another internship working for the third sector arm of the American Chamber of Commerce, and I had the best boss I could ever ask for. So that was my first real job. It was a paid internship. It was every day. It was full time. And I didn't like the work at all. I mean, a lot of the work was really boring, like going to pay stuff at the bank and writing emails for my boss. You're an intern. You're not doing anything fabulous. But she taught me everything I know about how to work, how you have to take every small task as it's very important, how it's important to treat everyone really well, and how you portray yourself, basic things. But I don't think until you work, I mean, I did work for a store, for Christmas. I worked in a shop, and I did small gigs when I was growing up, but not a full-on job at an office.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the first time I was positioned in one, and she was explaining how to do everything, and we were organizing, charity events. So it did give me a really good basis of managing money, asking for things, talking to donors. And so it was really fascinating. And she was an amazing boss. And I kept in touch with her. I kept helping with the charity events long after I was gone. So it was, in that sense, it was very useful. Yeah, but I really hated the work, and I really hated being in an office, and I just knew it wasn't for me, But I kind of always knew that. I was just slightly scared because in my family, everyone works in kind of the same area, sort of like business. They all went to the same university. So I didn't have an example of someone who worked in anything different, really. You could be a lawyer, a doctor, a business person. That was about it. I then I started to apply to these trainee schemes at Unilever and all those big companies because that's what people did at the time. And then I was part of one of those process. But then instead of going for the interview, I decided to go interview to this art gallery instead that a friend of mine sent me, and it paid really badly. It was 500 reais a month, and it was full-time work.
How much would that be for
less than 100 pounds a month to work somewhere every day?
Yeah, that's pretty difficult to survive.
Plus every other Saturday.
Goodness me, really? So you were doing basically weekend work and full-time job and still getting about 100 pounds.
But it was, again, I was very lucky because I was living in my parents' house still, so I didn't have to worry that much about earning my own money, and I was still in university, and it allowed me to work and study. And also, it was really the first time I saw and I got in touch with actual artists and people living of art. So, the whole art industry, people are doing things and they survive like this, so they're not gonna... Because, I have never seen one, and I was 18, so my experience in the world was very limited. And I mean, it's Brazil, the culture industry, as you know, it's not developed like the UK. It's completely different. It's a lot of self-started, it's very small things. There are not a lot of players in any other industry. So it's not something that it's thought to you as a possibility when you're growing up. People don't talk about making it as an artist or in the arts industry as a whole. And so it's hard when you have zero role models, I guess. Or at least it was hard for me. For some people, maybe not so much. But I was just gonna say that while I was doing that, that's when I started doing all this like producing stuff. So I started working in film sets and I did this fashion show. So I started producing anything, like working in events in all areas of the creative industries.
So what was this kind of gallery all about? Because if you're talking about producing fashion and other types of artistic events, what was the gallery about?
I have no idea. It was just like I really loved art and I thought, okay, maybe I'll work for a museum like you, Isa. I'm so old. This is gonna date me, okay? But the gallery at the time was organizing to go to the art fair, and we had to fax the information around. This is how old school. We had to draw on paper the like format of the booth to send to the art fair. Okay, very old school. But it was amazing because I did organize the gallery openings, and I spoke to all the artists that came. I helped them set up the exhibitions, and it was a fun environment, and people treated me really well. And again, I met a lot of people. The gallerist was quite flexible with me, so when I told her, "Oh, I got this freelance gig in film, I have to be out for 3 days," we could just switch dates around. So it really worked for me to explore all areas because I wasn't sure where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
I did makeup, I did set design, I did everything because I just wasn't sure which area to go, and there was no formal way to learn. So I just learned by trying lots of things.
But that's sometimes the best way to learn, isn't it? It's getting
Yeah.
your hands dirty and just trying everything and see what you can do and sometimes what you cannot.
Yeah, definitely for me. I'm a much better person like learning by doing than learning by sitting down and studying. That's just yeah, I think I like studying a few things, but I have me, I have a bit of a hyperactive personality. So it's hard for me to stand still. And so yeah, that worked well. Like I lied on some job interviews. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Pretending that I had like loads of experience when I didn't, and that got me through a few other bigger gigs, and I just started to get the experience essentially. And it's a bit like I once went to do like costume design for this short film, and then I wasn't happy with how people were organizing the thing, which was then co-producing. And I was like, okay, let me do that part as well. And so you just start to like figure out. I started calling people that may know. I'm very good at reaching out to people, so I was always calling someone who knew someone who could help me and who could tell me. So all gigs came more or less like that, of me saying yes to lots of things and asking people to put me in touch with other people. So I stalked all sorts of people, and yeah, it was a fun time of like discovery.
I bet. And were you doing that while you were in university studying international relations? Or
Yes, I worked throughout my whole uni.
yeah.
Because in Brazil it's only part time. As I don't know how yours was, and on the second year most people would switch to the evening part of, and so you would go. You can work all day, so you can have like a full time actual job. I mean, obviously in my case it didn't pay the bills, but it made me more available to work, and because my university, it was fun and so on, and it was, I guess, important at the time for the world. They expected everyone to have a degree, but it didn't really make much sense to what I was doing, because quite quickly then I figured out that I was going on a different path, and my university wasn't prepared to support me in any of that. So it was okay. I don't regret going because I met some amazing people there, but it was just not that useful, I guess. So I wasn't the best student.
That's okay. I mean, I'm a rat, a university rat. I love university life, but it's not for everybody. And I mean, it shouldn't be. People learn in different ways, and you can get jobs through with a diploma or not. You can excel in whatever you do if you really put your effort in. But anyway, so then you graduated. Were you still working for this gallery, or had you moved on?
No, so what? Okay, this is the craziest story. Are you ready for this?
Always.
So for those who don't know me, I grew up in Brazil, but my family is very, very mixed. I have lots of passports, and my family lives everywhere, and we like could represent like a Benetton campaign on our own. It's insane the amount of nationalities inside this very tiny family we have. But anyway, my grandfather is Polish. He came to Brazil on the Second World War, and he was very involved in the Polish community in Brazil, which not many people know is the second largest community outside of Poland. He was at one event and he met this lady who was telling him that she was organizing this huge film festival of Brazilian films and Brazilian culture in Poland, and she needed someone to work with her. And he said, "Well, my granddaughter works, I think, in some films. I don't really know what she does because they couldn't understand." So she was like, "Great." And then she called me, and this was the biggest reason. She lived like one block from the gallery, from the art gallery.
No.
So she called me and she was like, "Hi, I'm friends with your grandfather, and do you want to come talk to me because I need someone to do this festival with me, and you need to be in Europe for 20 days." And I was like 20 something. I was like, "Well, that sounds amazing." And she was actually going to pay me a proper salary. And oh my God, that was like insane. She was very funny and had a very hectic way of doing things. But in the end, I ended up in Poland. I had to produce a concert for 2,000 people.
Did you speak any Polish?
Oh, yeah, sure. I can sing happy birthday. And ask for water and pierogi, like very efficient. So no, I when I was there, I picked up a few things, but like because it was an international festival, everyone's speaking English, a little bit of French, but it was just like a crazy experience. And everything that I learned about producing and about being a producer. I learned there on the spot because a lot of things were going wrong, and she wasn't there, and so it was just me representing Brazil. Okay,
oh goodness,
I was like the government came to see me. I met the princess of Poland, like crazy stories. One of our mentors that I like networking, Veronica, is I met her there. Because I had to produce this music concert and I had no idea what to do. And she was a producer and she was there, as a guest because her husband at the time was one of the musicians. And she was helping me with everything. She was like, "Don't panic, we'll sort this out." And because it was a disaster, like someone's instrument got stuck in customs because they thought it was coming from Brazil. Maybe it has drugs inside. So we had to ask them to give us the instrument. No, it was like an insane moment of my life. I don't think I slept for 5 days in a row, but I was maybe 21.
So you could handle it.
22, yeah, but it was amazing because it was like, okay, this is what being a producer is, and I like it, and I'm pretty good. And after that, I got lots of other gigs with her, and after a while, again, by total desire of the universe, I met a friend from like school at a film festival in Sao Paulo, and I told him that I was more or less working in culture, and he was a musician, and he was trying to sell some concerts, and I was like, "Oh, I can sell some of your concerts. I have lots of contacts." And he didn't really believe me, but I did sell the concert, and he was very shocked. And then he invited me to produce something, and from then, more and more people started to invite me to do things. I decided, at the time, I actually had a full scholarship to go study film business in the States.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yes, because I thought I was going to be a filmmaker, because at the time I was mainly working in the film industry.
But you were already producing quite a lot of music, concerts, things like that as
well. More like theater events and I don't know. I was a bit of everything, really. Yeah, I wasn't focused on one thing because that's the thing. It's a very small business in Brazil, and if you're a producer, they just assume you can do anything. And that I was kind of doing it because I was young and I didn't know any better. It was just I decided not to go and masters and just open a company in Brazil instead and produce independent theater and music, which sounded insane to my poor parents. So they supported me, and then I opened my company, and that's what I did.
Yeah, so I was going to get there because I think it's, to this day, I find it so incredibly amazing that you had your own company when you were like in your early 20s. That is insanity, and you were very successful, weren't you?
Yes, we were. I mean, yeah, it was a bit insane, but that's the thing. Like, again, I didn't know any better. I wasn't scared of failure at all.
Yeah.
I kept assuming everything was gonna be okay. And
Very
it was,
Brazilian of you.
yeah, and I just, we were all really young, and, I was working with all these amazing artists, and we had like really great relationships, and it was just a lot of things were happening in Brazil at the time. It was exciting. I don't know, it was a bit of luck, but it was also, I was surrounded by really brilliant talent, and I like to think that I'm quite good actually at spotting talent. But
You
I
are.
was I really was really fortunate in the people that came into my life, in, even the other managers and other producers that I met. They were so supportive. It was just such a nice community. There wasn't, of course, there was competition in terms of like only one person can get funding from one company or another, and getting money in Brazil to make arts is very difficult. And so there was some competition that level, but it wasn't direct competition. It was, everyone would help each other, and when an event happened, there was a problem, everybody would help out. You could call 100 people. So it was really nice industry to be in. It was very challenging, obviously, because working in Brazil, we worked for the government a few times, and they would forfeit payment for 6 months, sometimes 8 months.
Yeah.
Like, there are all those things that happen, and like the industry is very informal. It's hard to keep track of all the payments. There's a lot of problems in terms of infrastructure. So to do tours, it's complicated, it's expensive. So it was a big learning curve. I had to do like an accountancy short course because I didn't know how to do any of that. Intense. I worked a lot of hours a day.
But it's interesting because you're talking about this community that come together and work collaboratively to face those challenges, and you're all coming together. And I think that's something very beautiful, and that could be applied to other cultures as well, is that when you come together independently, if you all work for the same company or not, there's we're stronger together. I think that's quite nice.
That's why I stayed for so long, and I endured a lot of craziness and stress and phone calls at any time, any point in my life. But it was exciting because we were growing, we were getting all these awards, so it was really nice. It's really nice to build something from scratch and to see it succeeding. And it was, I believed in everything that we were doing, artistically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this like freedom in terms of only producing things I really loved. And it was really exciting because, yeah, we didn't make a lot of money. I mean, I made enough to pay my bills and stuff, but to pay for the company and have an assistant. I had amazing assistants, and yeah, I worked with really great people, and just have a, community and friends that, yeah, it's just really nice when you work with a lot of artists and you see what they're about, and it really makes you believe that they are the people that are going to change the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of hope involved.
That's beautiful. So then, how did you end up in London?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So basically the company was going really well, it was growing, but I was really burnt out because it was really stressful. And then I was planning on having a 1 year break because I really wanted to figure out a business model that would be a bit more sustainable. In Brazil, a lot of the business companies in arts work on a project by project basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to go somewhere things were a bit different and be exposed to other industries. I needed a break. And then what happened? Yeah, there was a really sad incident as well, where I was at the beach and a small like young gang came in with guns and were held hostage. And it was what people complain about Brazil. I don't want to scare anyone of going, but it really made me bit like, oh my god, maybe really it's time to go. Like, I need a break from the madness.
Yeah.
I am gonna say that I was a bit traumatized.
It's fair. I mean, we cannot deny that there are social issues, and one of them is violence.
And then, yeah, so I applied for a few masters again, and then I was in between the States and here, and it was a big thing. But that, yeah, I always loved London, and I thought, I have European citizenship, so it was fairly easy to come at the time. And I was just like, well, I can work there, which would be amazing because, again, I always knew that my strongest suit was in learning what you're doing, and I wanted to meet lots of people and build my own network here. And then I never left.
The story of us
Basically.
all.
Yeah, like I actually was a big geek in my master's and I got a distinction. Okay.
Well done. I
And
remember that, yeah.
exactly, and I even contributed to a book afterwards on the team, and it was really nerdy because, again, I did my master's and I had no idea what I wanted to do for my dissertation. I have a tendency of getting very lost in things because I have too many interests, don't know how to focus them. And so she said, look, why don't you think about it that way? Instead of thinking about the subject as this like very big thing that you need to be 100% passionate about, think about people you'd like to meet.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and find an excuse to interview them because that's going to help you build your network and figure out exactly where you want to be placed in the industry. And that was, again, amazing advice. So I did qualitative research, which is about talking to people, etc. And of course, there was some quantitative research, but mostly qualitative. And so it was amazing. Obviously, she's a genius. And
so what did you write about?
I wrote about curating performance, and so curating live arts, basically, the role of the curator in live arts. So very nerdy, but again, very cool because it was cross arts, which is more or less my experience. And yeah, it really helped me to connect with lots of people. And I did 2 placements, one at Lyft, one at the Victoria and Albert Museum, which you helped me to get, Isa. And it really helped me to meet people and understand how the industry operates because it's very different from Brazil and what you think. Like here, everything's a bit more structured. So when you're a producer, you do certain things. You don't do everything like I used to do. I used to do like promotion, releasing music. I was like a label. I was an editor. I was the finance. I was fundraiser. Like here, things had like a division. And so it was like bigger teams. So it was really, yeah, it was great. She gave great advice. She was a really nice advisor. Can't complain.
No, and then you did really well with your masters. You have met a lot of people during your dissertation, and then what? How did you end up here now?
Then I struggled to get a job because I didn't know, I had never had a CV. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what a cover letter was. I struggled to get the hang of it. And also, like, all my experience in Brazil, even though I actually worked with brands like Red Bull and Converse, they didn't totally translate here.
Really? In which way?
People just assume, I don't know, it's almost like a trust issue. I don't know what it is. Like, it wasn't impressive enough for them, I don't think. And so it was hard. And because I have this experience in many different art forms, which in Brazil is okay, they didn't think that I was an expert in anything.
Yeah, expertise is a big thing here. And it's funny because you're supposed to have this breadth of experience, but at the same time you're supposed to be an expert, and it's so hard to meet both,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And I also didn't know how to fully frame my story for the employees, for the employers. So I don't know. I think, again, it's a learning curve when people come to London. I was a big fish in a small pond, and I came here. Here, everyone speaks more than a language. Well, not everyone, but a lot. London is a massive pool of talent from all over the world. So you're competing with people who also have incredible experiences, and it's just harder. I was working on my own for myself for so long. I didn't know how to ask people to hire me.
So did you learn?
Yeah, I got better, and so I got my first job because of a placement I did, because someone introduced me to someone that then invited me to an interview. You know how it is, which is why I really believe that you need to have a network to work in the creative industry. I think in any industry, but especially in our industries.
Yeah.
After that, I started getting other jobs, and I did a lot of freelance work because I really wanted to build a network, and I assumed being a freelancer, I would have more opportunities. Mm-hmm. Then I got another full-time job at an art fund, which is really great as well. But I mean, in London, I worked for like dance. I worked in like for a charity that worked with refugees and cooking. I worked with music, and then I worked with visual art. So I again did everything that I was doing in Brazil, like working across arts.
So you still never managed to get that kind of specialism. You were still kind
No.
of breaching out and doing different things and getting
Yeah.
exposed to different industries.
Yeah, I don't think it's my nature to stay close to just one industry because I really appreciate everything. Like I love theater, I love music, I love, visual arts, I like performance, I like everything. So I'm like, I don't want to be, because I feel like it's restricting. And the arts are so collaborative. It doesn't make any sense. Why are the people behind it supposed to just do one thing?
Fair enough. It's a very good point, and I think that's something that a lot of people in the arts I think struggle with. It's to choose one path when actually, if you're interested in art, most often you're interested in different kind of avenues of creative expression, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was for me at least. I mean, it's all my own. But yeah, then it's another crazy experience. I did this job for Converse in Brazil. And one of the people who were at the Converse team at the time was working for this other company here. And she invited me to do this project with her, which was amazing. But it was all with music festivals. And then COVID came.
Yes.
And music festivals were a no-go. Brand stopped paying marketing expenses. Everything came to a halt, as you know. Everyone was either fired or furloughed. And I was on a freelance contract, more or less. So, so mid-April, they cut everybody. And it was brutal because every day more of my friends and network would just be like, oh, I lost my job, all this or that. And people were going back to their family homes, and another friend of mine lost her job, moved back to Brazil. Like things just became very serious very fast.
Yeah, no,
and
it affected everybody.
And with no signs of when it was gonna get better at any point, because no one actually knew at the beginning the extent of the illness or anything. Not that they know everything now, but
they don't.
But it was a bit of a panic mode, right? And everyone was staying inside, and it was just tough times. But I realized that after a while watching Netflix and feeling sorry for myself, that I got really bored of that. I was like, look, I have 12 years of experience. I know all these people. If I'm struggling in the business, imagine the people who don't have any of those things. And I started going more and more into the whole diversity thing and how it was so hard for women to get to the top and all those things that were happening. And I heard friends complaining that they needed to network to meet people and to get somewhere, but it was impossible to do it now. I think I'm very good at networking.
You are. You're incredibly sociable. I think that's something to your strength.
Yes, and so I never actually had such a problem of talking to strangers and stuff, and so I and asking for support was like, well, maybe I'll start something with the people I know to help my friends. So that's the idea. I started really small, and then the mentors that came on board were amazing right from the bat. They were like, oh, I have someone else to introduce you, and then I have someone else. I was like, okay, so if we have these 3 areas, we might as well have like most areas of the creative industries. And then things just grew quite fast as like an idea. I was like, okay, maybe we need a website. I just put the program together quite quickly. I have this idea that it's better to fail fast and fail cheap, like a startup. Like if things don't work out, I always say that to you, Isa, like if you can test your idea cheaply and fast, then you know what the drill is, because no one usually comes with a service that's perfect off from the start.
No.
You have to develop based on what's happening in the world and what your audience or your users, whatever, are giving a feedback into. So I was like, let's try a new model of where mentoring is connected with networking so that people can become better at that.
Yeah.
Because you can't really progress, I don't think, in your career without having a support system. And I think it's really important that everyone builds it. I'm all about the collaborative aspect of the industry. That's how it started. So I launched it quite fast. I think it was like 2 months from idea to launch. Yeah, but it was I mean, I'm learning as I go because that's my style. I am very impulsive and I just think that things are gonna turn out okay somehow, which is a blind hope.
No, it's not, because you make that happen. But I remember you first contacted me saying, "Oh, I'm having this idea. Would you be part of it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." And then, like in a week, you were sending me like these full business plans and like all the communication. I was like, "Holy moly! How did you get from like doing like would you to all of a sudden having all these official documents?" And yeah, I remember like, in a month you were like, "Okay, so we're gonna launch now, and you're gonna have this and this to do." And I was like, "Whoa!" How did you
Yeah.
get that happen? So how did you manage to get all that together so fast?
Well, I had a lot of time on my hands. Because I had like one freelance gig throughout the whole time that didn't take much time. And I kind of like stopped applying for jobs for a month. I was like, oh, whatever. There's like 2 jobs left in the world. I'm not gonna do this. I don't want to write a cover letter for this. Like I just was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I cannot. I had no more energy, you know?
Yeah. So
And I don't know, I was just really, I'm very pragmatic, and I think I was a producer for a long time, so I'm very good into getting a big idea and dividing it into steps. That's like a big strength of mine. And so for me, it was quite easy. I was like, oh, this is what I need, blah, blah, blah. But also something that I learned being a trustee of a charity is how great it is to not work alone. So of course I like networking is I started it, but I didn't want it to be I really wanted to have other voices inputting into it because it's supposed to be representative. And I'm great, guys. I'm amazing, but I am like
and
uh
modest and very
very
modest.
modest, but I am like white, able body, so, and I come with buckets of privilege. So I didn't want to do a program for women and non binary people and be like, oh yeah, and the only one dictating everything that's happening because that felt counterintuitive. So I invited some people to be on the advisory board because I also needed, support finding mentors from specific different areas. And so I have someone, who helped me find the music mentors and someone who helped me with the press and the marketing campaign and someone, who helped me with finding mentors in film and developing the content. And so I had this amazing people who were really invested in the idea and really wanted to be a part of it, but not necessarily as mentors. And it was just, I don't think I wouldn't have done it in the same way without them, without these women, and obviously without the mentors who all been incredibly supportive, and everyone was sharing and doing and telling other people. And so really it was a team effort. So maybe I started, but it really is something that everyone pitched in. Even with small things, like I had got these stats that I was when I was studying the project and the program. I did a lot of research into it, and I sent some of the stats to some of the mentors. And one of the mentors said, oh, I think this language that the stat uses is a bit problematic. Let's change it to this. And so I had feedback from people there. We have our mentors itself, they're really diverse. We have people from Lebanon and from Brazil and from Switzerland and from Pakistan and from Turkey. So we have all these different experiences and voices, which really made it a lot better, I think, because it's not just my input into things. They were always suggesting things to improve and asking really valuable questions in terms of business model and putting me in touch with other people that could help and do partnerships. And so really, I'm really grateful for the team I assembled as a whole. And so I think that's the way I got it. I had the idea, I did some research, I stalked people, got them in, but then everyone did a bit of their part.
But that's the beauty of it, and I think that's why it's working so well so far, isn't it? Because we all feel invested. It's not that we're working for you; we're all working for each other.
Yeah, no, I think that's the one thing that again gave me a lot of hope because I emailed people that I have never met, just people that of course you, but you're my friend, so I was gonna force you to do it anyway. I got some other friends involved, that, or people who were my mentors for a while in London. And of course they were gonna do it because, I can be very persuasive with my friends.
I know
But
you can. You really
but
can.
with people that I didn't know and I really admire them from afar, I was like, okay, I'm gonna email them. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna direct message them on LinkedIn, or I'm gonna message them on Instagram. And I was just in awe with how much people wanted to help and to collaborate and to make the industry better. And everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to participate. People were just so kind and generous in sharing their time, And so it really made me see that's what I was saying. Like, that's, I think, the beauty of our industry, because it is a collaborative industry and it is usually a friendly space when you're in. At least the places I've been have been mostly friendly, with one or other exceptions. Of course, I've suffered a lot of prejudice working in specific fields, being a girl, but it's not the rule. To be honest, those were the exceptions to the rule. Those for me are like the remains of some sort of problematic
Yes, heritage.
heritage. But I think obviously the numbers and the stats don't lie in terms of the diversity and inclusion of and the gender pay gap. But everyone was involved. Everyone wants to change. Everyone who is in the industry wants that to change. So that gives me hope, that things will get better and will change, because everyone is so ready to help.
No, that is very true.
So that's it.
Belle, so now the program is going strong. All the mentors, I think, have already started with their mentees, and we're all enjoying ourselves. I can say that for myself, loving it. So what do you see for the future of I Like Networking? What are the next phases?
So, good question. So we launched a crowdfunding campaign, which I don't know if it will still be live when this podcast goes on air, hopefully. And with that, it's with NatWest. So basically, we are asking for £5,000, which just about covers the costs of website hosting, Zoom Pro, Typeform, all this like software, like G Suite, all the stuff that we need to just keep the website and the program running on a digital sort of level, and just be able to pay for some basic costs, for like the designer and things like that. If we're successful, which we will be, hopefully. This is a crowdfunding campaign made with NatWest, so they can, depending on how we do it, depending on how successful we are, we might be eligible for a match funding from them of up to 50% the amount we raise.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And basically, I would like to, if that all goes well, that means that I have some resources to reinvest and maybe work with a business consultant so we can find the best model going ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely do another session of mentoring early next year. At this time, we supported 71 applicants with only 37 mentors. So I'm thinking that the next one we can make it even bigger. But I think I'm very happy with the rate, because we received over 420 applications.
That is incredible.
And we didn't have any paid media or anything. So it was just literally social
word
media.
Of mouth.
Word of mouth. And so I think with more time, I can actually communicate the program to more people and get to other communities that perhaps didn't know about it or knew about it later. So I want I Like Networking to become a really great career hub and a supporting digital space for women and non-binary professionals in the creative industries, or wannabe professionals.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of programs out there are targeted at young people, and I find it very unfair, because
we all struggle.
Yeah, at different times. And a lot of women leave the industry for a while when they become parents, because there is no parenting like support, etc. I just hope that it gets bigger and we get support more people. And we are launching, a series of masterclasses which are paid but all have bursaries for everyone. So I just want it to become a really supporting environment, and we are building a peer-to-peer sort of network so that everyone can eventually even become a mentor, like all the mentees, but people can support each other and become more connected. And maybe we can actually change a little bit the stats in the industry.
Yes, no, that's
But
not.
yeah,
I think
that's
we're
the
working.
vision.
We're working hard, and it sounds like everything is going towards this goal. So that's really positive.
Yes, I hope so. Thanks, Isa. That's very kind of you.
Oh no, so I think that's it. I think any last words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
Oh God, no. I think
No.
the only thing I have to say to people who are working as producers, this is my one advice to everybody. Prepare for everything that's gonna go wrong. Like you can anticipate as many problems as you can, but be mentally prepared for something that you cannot at all anticipate to go wrong. Breathe deeply, and sometimes if there are absolutely no solution to your problem, then that's the solution. Some things sometimes cannot be solved by you. Just
That's deep, but quite wise actually.
that's very important when things are going crazy wrong. The whole city has no electricity for 5 hours. Like things that really, really are beyond your control. You really need to breathe and be like, okay, how much control of the situation do I actually have here?
I think that's an
And
advice for life. Like
yeah,
even like right now with pandemic, how much is in our hands, in our control? Very little, isn't it? And so yeah, be prepared to the unknown. I think it's a good advice
yeah.
for life. Well, Belle, this has been such a pleasure, and I hope you all forgive me for interrupting. I'm obviously a very, very bad interviewer. But it has been such a pleasure, Belle, getting to know your trajectory and how I like networking started, where it's heading, and I hope you all enjoyed. And let's all give Belle some love because she's amazing. She's a
Yes.
superwoman.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I'm so happy. You were a great interviewer, I think.
Oh no, I interrupt a lot. I'm really sorry about that.
It's okay, I do that too. I'm very anxious.
I think it's a
Uh,
Brazilian thing. Maybe I'm
maybe.
stereotyping Brazilians, but I feel like we talk too much.
I mean, you and I definitely do. So maybe it's us, But yeah, let's blame it on all Brazilians because that will make me feel better.
Okay, let's do that.
Like it's a genetic condition, guys.
It's cultural, it's social, it's cultural, it's in our blood. Okay, well, thank you so much, Belle.
Thanks, Lisa. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the I Like Networking podcast. Please remember to share, subscribe, and review the podcast so that more people can find us. All the information discussed on this episode will be on the show notes. See you next time.